So what I'm going to do is today we were going to have a conversation about academic advancement as a health professions educator. And I always use the term health professions rather than medical educator because I actually am a faculty for the PhD program at the Mass General Institute for Health Professions Education, and very, very, very comfortable in an interdisciplinary and interprofessional education setting. So with that, I'll just show a few slides. And this is not about specifically promotion at Harvard. That's not really it, but it's more holistically, how do we grow as educators? If you want specifics about Harvard promotions, now there are plenty of workshops that the Office for Faculty Affairs does. And since rules change and the logistics change and the details of what you need to submit change, it's best that specifics come from their office rather than us. But this is more about how does one grow as an educator. So let me go ahead and show just a few slides to set the stage and academic advancement as an educator. And this doesn't matter if you're at the Brigham, if you're at the MGH, if you're at the Regis, wherever you are, or with UCSF, the principles still apply. So think about two things. Do you spend a high proportion of time on educational activities? And I don't mean teaching hours, okay? Almost at all institutions where promotions becomes an issue, teaching alone does not help one proceed across different levels of academic advancement. So high proportion of time spent on educational activities, and education is your primary academic focus. Well, maybe not forever. You had a different focus, different disciplinary focus, research area, but then you're trying to shift into education. Doesn't matter. It just, if you want to get started. Okay. So I'm going to just talk about the spectrum of health professions education roles and definitions, all right? So teachers. So if you're a teacher, you actively, and believe me, it's one of the most important, I think, professions on the face of the planet. So let me just say, preface that and then say, we actively engage in teaching health professionals and serve critical roles in their professional development, okay? And I might say something about we might train ourselves to become better teachers, and we might also assess our own teaching styles, teaching methods, and get learner evaluation. So all that comes under teaching. Now, educators apply theory and evidence to inform their teaching, but more importantly, we design educational products, curricula, assessment tools, programs, engage in scholarly presentations or publications. Now, note the words scholarly. Scholarly is using evidence and using theory to inform our education, design, and teaching. That's scholarly, not scholarship. Now we're coming into scholars. Now we start giving back, studying education in a little more detail, pose questions about the theoretical basis of teaching and learning, explore the impact of educational initiatives. This is the most important bit, the last bit, which is disseminate findings. So if we are scholarly, we adopt evidence and principles from the outside. If we are scholars, we give back. So it's a two-way exchange. And finally, we can also be leaders, leading educational initiatives, programs, just as Jed said, like he's one of the leaders in their residency education. Then oversee teams of teachers, scholars, and educators. Now, I will say this, in order to progress academically in education, we need to at least get to level 2. Teaching alone will not suffice because almost all universities will say, wait, hey, you're a university faculty, you're expected to teach at some level or the other, be it the lab, be it on the wards, be it in clinic, be it in the classroom. you're supposed to be teaching. So they don't just take teaching as an academic criteria. But this is something discussed very rarely. And those of you who want to go back and look up Boyer, Ernest Boyer in the 1990s, he thought to himself, he's a very scholarly gentleman, he thought to himself, why is scholarship always come down to research, publications, peer-reviewed publications? I mean, surely scholarship, all scholarship means is you have advanced the field and added to the knowledge in a certain area. And that's not just research, you can do it many ways. And then he described a few forms of scholarship, and all of these are very, very applicable to us as educators. Scholarship of discovery, this is the traditional, what we know as research. Pose a research question, collect data, analyze data, and then interpret data and write about the implications. Develop hypothesis or test hypothesis, explore. All these are scholarship of discovery or research. Scholarship of application is just as important. Who cares if the scholarship of discovery sits in the lab or sits in somebody's office and never reaches the stakeholders? That's scholarship of application. So take the evidence generated or hypothesis discovered and put it into practice. So a lot of us do that, and we need to showcase that. Scholarship of integration, and some of you would probably very familiar with that. This is not just, oh, well, if it's medical education, I'm just sticking to what I saw on the wards or the office or the clinic or OR, and just everything with a little within a shell. That's not it. We actually go outside into psychology literature, education, higher ed literature. We go into law, we go into business, we go into anthropology, sociology, and adopt those principles. And that's something I discovered to my great amazement during my PhD in my dissertation. A lot of these psychological principles, sociologic principles, business principles were brought in, and they're so applicable. And those of you who are interested in the topic of feedback, for example, you will get the best articles in Harvard Business Review, much more than the medical education world, just so you know. And if you want to go into nursing literature, there is so much, especially the nurses are especially facile at qualitative research, which is so much more aligned with anthropology and sociology, and so much more communication skills research, for example. So we need to go beyond and bring those principles back into our own little corner of the world. Then scholarship of teaching and learning. It is not hardcore research, but it is about how do I design an educational program or method, teaching method, but then how do I study it and improve it and study its impact? So that's scholarship of teaching and learning methods, nothing to do with the other three. And then later on, Boyer described one more level of scholarship. And he said, all this is fine, but what if it doesn't benefit the larger community? And that became scholarship of engagement. So it is for a larger purpose, more noble purpose, taking it to the world, taking it to benefit the environment. As you know, a lot of people now are talking about diversity, disparities, inclusivity, bias, environmental health. All these are very much scholarship of engagement. See, there are so many kinds, and maybe some of you didn't even know of all this. So we don't need to be sticking just 1 out of 5. Okay, there's many more ways to advance. So coming back to Harvard CV, there are three areas that we must document on our CV. One is teaching activities or educational activities. The second is recognition as an educator. And finally, educational scholarship. And as I told you, I define scholarship so that you can see all the materials that count as educational scholarship: research reviews, chapters, training, educational materials, courses, whether it's in print or whether it's online, web-based, anything. They're all as equally important, as long as we have advanced the field a little bit. And at different levels, different professorial levels, you might need to show adoption of your programs locally, nationally, or internationally. So that makes you step by step. Okay. And I just want to finish up by talking about, the educational activities. I don't have to read through it all. Teaching can be classroom or clinical in our health professions world. And these are all the things we need to document. How large or small the activity was, how many people attended, do we have evaluations to evidence its quality, and innovations, okay? And even now I'm doing teaching on education, so that matters as well. Then mentorship at any level. So number and stature, current stature of the mentees, and then leadership roles, administrative teaching leadership roles. That's all the teaching and educational activities. The second, remember I said, was recognition. So invited presentations, contributions to educational organization, leadership roles, service on committees, awards. So that's recognition. And finally, scholarship, we've already talked about in great detail, but then I think there's many places, many universities now ask for educational innovations as a separate section. So not to belabor the point, what can we do as individual educators who want to, this is from an article that I wrote in the Clinical Teacher. So we start, it's a bit of here and go around. So we start as a scholar, find area of passion, read, stay up to date in that arena, learn, attend workshops, formal courses, seek mentors, and try to join a community or a team of scholars. Very important, community of scholars or communities of practice. Then advancement, this is wetting, just getting wet, and dipping your toes in the ocean, if you like. And then go on, find your niche, consolidate areas of interest. I remember my mentor saying, well, you seem to be interested in so many areas. Why don't you start consolidating and find that niche where you become the expert? Adopt standards for scholarship. We talked about that. Engage with fellow scholars. And as you have a mentor, try to start mentoring others as well. You learn so much from your mentees. Then you go on, if you want to be a leader in health professions education, then I would say gain leadership skills, educate yourself. So I attended the Brigham Leadership Program, which they do with the Harvard Business School, which was fantastic. It opened my eyes, and that's why I read outside of medical education so much, because it just instills a curiosity. Seek feedback from colleagues at multiple levels, and that includes our learners. Embrace a continuous quality improvement mindset. Become a problem solver. Join and contribute to communities of practice. Communities of practice will come over and over again. Read about it. It's important. We cannot succeed alone. And wherever you are in this circle, engage in reflective practice. Reflect continually on your vision, mission, and beliefs. Examine alignment with institutional values. This is another thing one of my mentors told me, oh yeah, you're interested in this, you're interested in this, but what does your department or your institution want from you? Okay, you go off and do all these courses, but what is it that you'll bring back? So remember that. Be curious, authentic, creative, and humble. And this is a big part of what I say always is be humble, humility. Be prepared to be wrong. Be prepared to learn from your mistakes. Be a collaborator. And then we go back to communities of practice. So those are global advancement strategies. And these strategies would serve us well wherever we are, whatever level we are at. And Final words about scholarship. Scholarship, scholarly teaching, and the scholarship of teaching and learning are different, and we've explained that before. Here are the criteria for scholarship very explicitly. Making work public, and that could be your educational resources and materials, remember, not just papers, and it could be workshops too. Critically reflecting on one's work and constantly improving upon it, applying current knowledge and questioning, being open to scrutiny, thinking about contributing to the field, and building and contributing to a community which benefits from the practice and knowledge of members. It's an iterative journey. It's not like you wake up one morning and say, oh, I'm now a scholar. No, it's a journey, and it should be fun. And you should also think about stopping anywhere you wish to stop. Okay, don't try to aspire to somebody else's goals. If you're happy, that's what counts. And if you've contributed in some way and made an impact, that's what counts. So I will say this, I'm not going to say push yourself, gain perfection. No, stop where you have to contribute to others. That's it. And shifting from primary clinical discipline to health professions education is different, because let's say you're a researcher and a clinical researcher, and you need to shift to be an educational researcher. The methodology is different. Okay, the animal labs and human labs are not the same. For example, drug trials and educational trials are not the same. So it requires a period of adjustment. Don't express skepticism. It happens. Oh, well, that's not rigorous because I learned in the lab to do this. No, have a mind shift. And hopefully promotion and tenure criteria acknowledge faculty work patterns while recognizing that not everyone will wish to or need to engage in the full breadth of scholarship activity. And institutions must enable and encourage individuals in engagement with scholarship. And this is a lot of what the BEI does, for example. We now have this program, the Education Research Certificate Program, and we have 5 scholars, and we are helping. They have access to so many of the BEI staff and faculty as they engage in their educational projects. We celebrate them, we acknowledge them, and we push them. And with that, we can say, well, thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your projects and your interests, and hope to see you soon.